This is Mark Burgess from Chameleons. And you're listening to the New Wave Music Podcast.
Welcome to a special episode of the New Wave Music Podcast. Today we have another new music spotlight. Before we begin, though, I wanted to mention our sponsor, Offside Apparel. We needed custom t-shirts printed, and we found Offside Apparel, and I'm glad we did. They have great prices and service.
Yeah, you can design online or upload your own designs on their website at offsideapparel.com. It's the perfect solution for family reunions, schools, clubs, companies, you name it. If you need custom printed or embroidered apparel, check out Offside Apparel. Plus, they ship everywhere.
And if you use the promo code NEWWAVE, one word, NEWWAVE, you'll get 10% off your entire order until May 31st, 2024. Once again, that's offsideapparel.com. We're thrilled to have Luis Navarro and Joel Nino Jr. from the darker wave band Twin Tribes. It's great to have you guys with us today. Thanks so much for taking time out of your day to join us here on the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Yeah, for sure. Looking forward to our conversation.
So just to kind of start out, where did you two originate from?
We're from the southernmost tip of Texas, basically a small area called the Rio Grande Valley. And I'm originally from Mexico, from Matamoros, which is right across the border. Grew up in Brownsville, and I met Joel from a mutual friend. And Joel grew up in a very close area.
Yeah. I was like maybe 15 minutes away from Brownsville in a little like country town called Los Fresnos. And we that's where we live. Yeah. Southernmost tip of Texas.
So how did Twin Tribes form? How did you guys decide to form the band?
Well, we already knew each other. We met through a mutual friend. He was a drummer, and I was invited, to play, synth and vocals and a little bit of everything in that band. And Joel played in that band, and eventually the band kind of just faded and drifted apart. And during the last stages of the band, I started writing a couple of demos that were inspired from music from the 80s, new wave, dark wave, and also by newer bands that I had just discovered. And it seemed to have like this boom of new bands with 80s elements. And I wrote a couple of demos, and I remember we were driving from Austin, I think. We had a show in South by Southwest at the time with the other band, and I was showing Joel some of the demos and just kind of getting his thoughts. And eventually he liked them, and eventually we got together. Once the other band ended, and we just started writing. And eventually, in a couple of months, we had our first album.
Yeah, and it was kind of like an instant thing. I remember precisely. Yeah, we were on our way from Austin or to Austin for a show out there, and Luis showed me a demo of Shadows, and I just thought it was like the coolest thing I had heard in such a long time, and refreshing to my ears. And I told him hey, if at any point you want to kind of need a bass player, just let me know. And it kind of worked out, right? Maybe a month after that, or I don't even know if it was that long after.
Yeah. It was relatively quickly, and once we got together, and just the writing process just clicked, and we came up with the first album, and things just kind of started going forward after that. We quickly wrote the second album, and then behind that was just a bunch of tours, anywhere we could play. and now we're ready to release our third studio album.
Yeah.
Definitely got some questions about your first two albums and the new album. We'll get to that in just a little bit. How did you guys come up with the name Twin Tribes?
That was just a play of words. We had a bunch of ideas written down, and I guess the kind of way that we were marketing ourselves on social media was kind of like if it was like an invitation, kind of like a cult. And the lyrics of the first album was basically inspired in like 80s horror films and the occult and weird stories, and it kind of just made sense. So we bumped into a cult that I think it no longer exists, called the 12 Tribes. And I think that Joel had already several, words, and one of them was twin. And I guess it just seemed very symmetrical when he suggested it. It sounded really cool to me.
Yeah, it's a lot of that. Like, it sounded really cool, and we had a long list of just names that we had, and we would research them on Google. Oh, that's a band. Okay, we can't use that one, and kind of we came down to maybe 3 finalists, and then like we chose Twin Tribes just because it fit, and it was something that something that came from both of us, right? From Luis's idea coming from the 12 Tribes, and then me having that twin, and then it kind of like just came together. Like most of the stuff that we do, writing music or just decisions that we make, it's always been like a little bit of both of us involved. So that's just one of those things that kind of happened that way.
Your music reminds me of a vast collection of darker waves and some 80s new wave artists. But I'm curious, can you guys tell me who your influences are?
Yeah, I think when we were writing the first album, The Cure was a big one. The early The Cure, like 17 Seconds and Pornography, and so The Cure was a big one. Depeche Mode, of course, a big one.
Of course, those are the classic ones, from the 80s. And Luis mentioned earlier, we also found inspiration in the bands that had just released albums and we were listening to constantly, and bands like Drab Majesty, She Passed Away, Second Still, Choir Boy, right? Just some of those, just to name a few of the ones that we were listening to at that point when we were writing. But yeah, I think it's a kind of like a joining of the old and the new, and I feel like all those influences put together kind of helped us to make that sound that is our own.
I definitely can hear that the early Cure, especially like you mentioned in your first album. So let's talk about the first album from 2018, Shadows. It features some great tracks. The standout ones for me was, of course, Shadows. Dark Crystal. And Talisman. How was the experience of releasing your first album?
It was I guess totally unique and different from the other releases, because this was a period where Joel and I didn't really have any sort of plan, I guess, other than let's record this album that we like and put it to a cassette, We released it on a cassette, and that's it. We really didn't have anything, and didn't even have a following, didn't have any expectations. This is just something that we were having fun with. We met, it kind of just worked out perfectly. We met through, I think it was a Facebook ad or a Facebook group post or something. We met one of our friends called Alan Michael, and he lives about an hour away. And he was, saying, "Hey, have a bunch of, analog equipment and specialize in like new wave and 80s and analog equipment, drum machines. And I record guys, or I want to record people." And I bumped into this ad. We meet him, and he just has like the gear that we were hoping to get. Like the Roland JC120 amp that has that very early Cure characteristic or tone, and it just kind of worked out perfectly. It worked.
Yeah, and just the album release in itself was, again, with no expectations, but it surprised us just how fast it kind of got picked up by local DJs, by DJs in Texas, and then kind of that spread the word to like places like New York, Los Angeles, and before we even knew it, like it snowballed so big, I guess, on social media as well, that we had labels reaching out to us to see if they could put out our stuff on vinyl and on CD. Again, we were just planning, hey, let's just do this cassette. It's kind of unique, 50 of them, I think it was. We'll do 50 cassettes, see if we can sell them. And that was the plan. But again, the project kind of took on a life of its own, and here we are.
Now, you did a great job following up Shadows a year later. You released Ceremony. It contains some outstanding songs such as Heart and Feather. The River. And one of my favorite darker wave songs, Phantasmas. Do you have a favorite track, or is there one that you'd recommend our audience to check out?
From that album, I think my favorite track is Heart and Feather. But there's a little bit of everything in that album. There's, slow songs and a fast pace. And I think mostly everybody's favorite seems to be Phantasmas.
Yeah. I think we released that right before the pandemic started. And then I think Phantasmas just kind of like went viral, like on YouTube. It got like, I don't know how million hits, I think. And it was again a period of time where we were just about to get ready. As we mentioned before, we do tend to tour a lot behind our music, and we were just getting geared up to do that behind Ceremony. So when the pandemic hit, it was kind of like a big bummer. I think, what was it? We opened up for Clan of Zymox, I think, a couple of shows out on the West Coast, and then after that, everything shut down. So it was a big bummer. But again, Ceremony kind of picked up on its own, and I guess during those, it resonated during that period of time where it was kind of dark for everybody. It was a rough time. So I think that had to do a lot with people kind of picking up on the music and Fantasmas. Um, Going back to your question as to what my favorite song is, I honestly I honestly don't even know. I think I love to play Heart and Feather Alive, but I'm a big fan of like slower, broody songs. So Obsidian is probably one of my favorites on the album.
Nice.
That's a good one as well. And you kind of mentioned you were on a roll back in 2018, 2019, releasing albums. Sounds like you had big plans for Ceremony, but then of course the events of 2020 happened. Sounds like they took a bit out of the band and the wind in your sails, like a lot of bands at that time. You released a remix album in 2021. Was that something that came about because of the lockdowns and the pandemic?
Yeah, but it wasn't really planned. We really didn't have anything planned for 2020 other than, okay, so, everything seems to be stopped. Artists are doing live streams around this time. We did a couple of live streams as well. And we interacted with the fans, did a lot of Instagram lives during this time. I think one band reached out to us to do a remix, and yeah, we said, yeah, that's cool. And then another band later did the same thing, and maybe a month later another band. And okay, so we have 3 remixes, and we listened to them, and they sound amazing. Why don't we just contact a couple of friends and artists that we like, and then maybe we could release this album? And it all happened just like that. It wasn't planned, and we reached out to several bands and friends, and they were down, and they just totally redid the songs. They made them entirely their own, and it was great. It was something cool that happened organically during that time.
Yeah, yeah. Each band like put their own spin on the songs, and whenever we would get in a remix, we'd be completely in awe of how talented. Well, obviously, we know our friends are talented, right? Because we've played with them before and seen them in their own bands. But just how they kind of reconstructed the songs, it was a beautiful thing. And yeah, it came together again organically and honestly perfectly. That was a really bright shining light for us during that whole pandemic era.
How did you select who worked on which of those songs on the album Alters, such as Ash Code did Phantasmas?
I don't believe anymore. Solo veo fantasmas. Están dentro de ti. Solo veo fantasmas. Están dentro de ti.
She passed away, I believe, did Portal to the Void.
The gods they reveal secrets have become unsealed to the door. Into the door now. Distant screams, I hear them cry. Today's the day I choose to die to the void.
Did the bands come to you and say, we'd like to do this song, or do you kind of offer them up a song to do?
Well, we were just thinking, okay, so who can work on this? Because I think one of the first and earliest remixes were probably Matt Black.
Don't sleep till we fade. Your skin left and dead. Don't sleep till we fade away.
And I don't know, there was one more, I can't remember, but those were definitely like the first ones. And so from there, every time that we reached out to an artist, we were like, hey, do you guys want to do a remix for us? If yes, these are the tracks that we have available. just to kind of like not have, two of the same tracks. But yeah, that's kind of how it happened. And it was crazy.
Yeah. Thinking back to it, it's wild how something like that could come together, but it did.
So you're about set to release like you said, your third studio album, Pendulum. It's being released January 26th. So far, you've dropped 2 singles, Monolith.
The vision upon us, the memory remains. Nothing to define. The light will cast me aside. Bring me silence, right for the heart. Bring me silence through the night.
And Cauldron of Thorns. Can you give us an idea what to expect on the new album?
I think the new album is, we tried to achieve a balance of light and dark. It's not just a really dark and, moody or broody album, but there's a little bit of everything. It's very synth driven, and you'll still hear elements that sound like Twin Tribes, but it is, I feel like kind of like a evolution in the sound for us.
Yeah, and again, the reason we call it Pendulum is that what would you call it? Like the black and white of it, the light and dark of it, and how it can go back and forth, like a constant ticking. So we prepared the album that way too. So when you hear the album, it's very balanced, I would think, right? As Shadows, I feel, was probably not our darkest, but it was in there, right, a little bit. And Ceremony also was pretty dark. This one's a lot more, there's a lot brighter spots in it. You can, as Luis mentioned, there's a lot more synth in it. Like, I think there's only 2 songs with bass guitar in it. Most of it has bass synth. So it's really an evolution of the sound, and I feel like it's really cool to have something that sounds different but is also us at the same time.
Well, I really enjoyed what I've heard from the album. I'm really looking forward to the full album dropping on the 26th. Can't wait to check out that full album. I think it's something that you guys are probably going to gain a lot more fans on. I think it's probably some of your best work from what I've heard so far.
Wow,
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Let's hope so. Yeah.
When it comes to the writing process, is it a joint effort, or does one of you handle the lyrics and the other one maybe handles more of the music?
Yeah, no, everything that we do is a collaboration, is joint effort. We'll come up with a bass synth or a drum beat, and just email it to Joel, and then he'll email me some notes, or we'll constantly go back and forth with songs, with riffs, lyrics, everything.
Yeah, it's become really like an online collaboration, because we have Google Notes, or what is it called, the Docs. We have Google Docs, like with a bunch of song names, with a bunch of like just lyrics. We'll have, like you mentioned, on our Google Drive, we just send each other back and forth like these riffs and edits, and hey, try this, try that. We're on like Messenger or social media, like voice messaging each other, hey, let's try this. And so that's really how Pendulum came together.
Yeah.
Just like that.
So when you're producing the album or creating the new album, is it just you two, or do you have other musicians that help out?
No, yeah, we usually will come up with the demos of, the entire album here in our studio. And once we have everything, all the meat and the bones, all the MIDI, then we'll, export that. And we will, work with a friend of ours called Charlie Vela. which lives also about an hour or 45 minutes away, or his studio is about 45 minutes away. So yeah, the way that we did Pendulum is that we, exported all of the MIDI. And when we went to the studio, he already had, all of the drums, he had all the synths. So now it's just about choosing like sounds a little bit more, I guess, with paying more attention to detail and trying to create a little bit more unique snares. And he'll be the guy, to kind of help us produce this, because it's produced by us and him as well.
I think it's been like this the past two albums too, Ceremony or Shadows, that we actually worked on a few songs in the studio. We had the framework, but I think either we didn't have the lyrics or so he did help us. He was very much in a producer type role when we were in the studio.
So the first time we were able to see you guys live, or our first exposure to you guys, was back in November at the Darker Waves festival. Was that the largest crowd that you've played to date?
Probably. We were, after the show, we were kind of just like thinking, is this the biggest show? And I think it is. I think it is, because we played at festivals just as big as Darker Waves before, and probably around the same time too. It wasn't as big. I was telling Joel that during the first 2 or 3 songs, I was just like, wow, that's awesome. There's quite a few people here, and it's pretty early.
Yeah.
And then by like the 5th, 6th song or 7th song near the end, it was just like insane amount of people. Have never seen so many people in my life.
Yeah, I heard, through social media, a lot of people were like, yeah, I heard this song as I was walking in or while I was in line to get in. So I was hearing your stuff. So we joined the crowd once we got in. So I thought that was really cool. Yeah, I think it is I think if there's any competition to that crowd, it's probably Cruel World. But I wouldn't know, right? It's just so many people like to really tell. It's just a big crowd for both.
Yeah.
Well, at that show, while we were watching you guys perform, we were also watching the crowd. You guys had so many in the palm of your hands. That must have felt good.
Yeah, it was pretty I don't know, scary, but also amazing.
Yeah.
I was just enjoying the moment. Like, when else are we going to be playing a goth festival in the beach next to the frickin' ocean?
Right.
Yeah.
So I was just getting blasted by the sun in my face every now and then, but I was just it was just a freaking dream come true.
It was. It's exactly it, a dream. And you pick out the ones in the crowd that are really feeling it, and you just gravitate towards them. Those are the ones that are really gonna pump you up, especially with a crowd that big. I mean, if it's like that with the little crowds, you really tend to lock in with the people that are really feeling it the most, and you feed off of that, and that's exactly what I did. That's exactly what Luis does too.
Yeah.
I even, just this little story I don't think I've even told you, is that it's weird. So many people out there, and I happen to pinpoint, one of our longtime friends from San Diego, Karen. I saw her, like, it's such a weird thing. And she was super far, and I was like, oh, look, that's Karen and her boyfriend. But again, like, something like that is just so crazy with such a large crowd.
Yeah.
But again, those who are feeling it, those are the ones we look at. Those are the ones we feed off of and kind of do our best.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Well, I love the YouTube video you guys released, kind of your behind the scenes of Darker Waves that day leading up to your performance. I thought that was just great, not only behind the scenes of that festival, but just seeing how much you guys were just clearly enjoying yourselves.
Yeah, it was so much fun.
Yeah, and I think that's the first time that we do that, where we have somebody following us along. And we had our friend Jerry Castillo. He does most of our stuff as far as like video goes on social media and YouTube. But he followed us along for the day, and again, that's exactly what it is. It's us enjoying the moment as much as we can. We don't know if you're going to get the opportunity again, so you just take it like I guess an hour at a time. We do rush through some things, and at the end of the day, it all goes by so fast. But you really try to kind of like take it all in.
Was there any other acts that were performing at Darker Waves that you wanted to check out?
Oh yeah, so many. I think we saw Mochadoma. We wanted to see them again. Freaking amazing. We saw, man, what else did we see?
Saw Tears for
We saw
Fears,
Tears for Fears. We saw New Order,
Human League,
Human League.
Devo was
Wow.
just
That
blew
was good.
Yeah.
just blew us away. And I'll be honest, like all I knew Devo from at that point was Whip It on MTV. Like that's how I knew Devo. Shame on me, right? Shame on me. It's funny how at this point in their career where they're done, right? They're saying this is their farewell tour. And
I think Darker Waves was one of their last performances. They might have one here or there, but I think that was kind of their end one.
Right,
Right.
correct. And so it's insane to think that at that point in their career, they've just made a new fan in me, And so
Mhm.
that's just a really cool thing that just in general is like, wow, that's the power of music. That's the power of performance. Yeah, they were definitely one of the highlights or the highlight of the festival.
they blew us away. They made everybody just like, damn. Like they're not Devo.
Yeah. They got Devoed.
Yeah, it was a very cool experience. We saw a bunch of artists, and I think that everybody that we've talked to like was very happy with the festival. Clan of Cymox guys were freaking just loving it, and there was so many bands to check out, and
Yeah, we did our best to see them all.
Like I said, I didn't know who you guys were prior to going into the festival, but by the time your set was over, I was already a huge fan. You guys were up there with the level of some of those other just bands that have been there for decades. Your guys' talent level is up to that caliber as well.
Wow, thank you.
That's very nice.
That's high praise, really it is.
Yeah.
So along with the new album, you're hitting the road. Looks like your tour kicks off January 25th at the Fox Theater in California. I'm looking forward to seeing you guys on February 6th in Salt Lake City. Can you give us a glimpse of what to expect on this tour?
Nice. Like Joel said, this is going to be the tour behind the album, and it's going to be very special. We've never had an album release show. Now we get to do two nights. One of them before the album officially releases, which is going to be crazy. But you're going to hear everything that you like about Twin Tribes. It's probably the craziest set that we've planned ever.
Yeah. When we were putting together the set, we were very conscious of, getting the songs that were perfect to complement the new stuff, and a little bit of everything: Shadows, Ceremony, and of course a big chunk of Pendulum. But yeah, we've been working on this, nonstop for about a month and a half on our set, on our live performance. Gearing ourselves up for one of our biggest tours, right? This is like just overall. We've already announced the West Coast dates that are up already. We have some Latin American dates, Central America, South America. We're going to be announcing some European dates soon. East Coast, Midwest. Like we're going to be everywhere this year, behind the album. So we're gonna give it our all, as we always do, and we do have some special stuff also the week of our album release. Got a couple of in-store record signings that we'll be doing and that we're going to be announcing as well. So it's going to be a whirlwind.
Yeah, it's going to be so much fun. There's going to be a ton of new merch, bunch of new stuff that we have with us. We have, the new album, vinyl. There's already going to be new pressing coming up. And like Joel said, like new dates. We're going to really, really try to be everywhere this year.
So as you're preparing for the tour, is there songs that you guys enjoy performing live, whether to see the crowd reaction or it's just one of your personal favorites to play?
I don't know. That's kind of hard. I mean, I think I really enjoy ending the set. That's probably the moment of, the most energy, since, we usually end with Fantasmas or with sometimes we throw in a cover towards the end of the set as well. But I think that that's probably the moment which like we give it all. Not that we don't in other songs, but that's just like every amounts of energy that you have. It's just like you let it off there.
Yeah, that's your last grace. You're just putting in the everything that's left after this long set that we've done. Personally, I again, Pendulum is going to be a lot of synth, right? I'm going to be on the synth a lot more, and I've really enjoyed, just the difference of not playing the bass all the time. So any of the songs that I'm on the keys, it's really cool for me right now. So I love playing those, and even a new song, Sanctuary, it's like really fast becoming one of my favorite songs to play.
You've got me really intrigued with a lot of synth that you're teasing. I'm a big fan of that, so I'm really looking forward to seeing how that sounds.
Awesome.
Throughout the year, you're not only doing many dates in the U.S., but also South America and Europe. Being Latino, do you have a strong following in Argentina, Colombia, and Peru?
I was checking out our data not so long ago, and I think Santiago in Chile is probably our top three, like in our cities, like in our top cities. It's like number three. So there's like a huge following in Chile, and Peru is definitely in the top 10 or 20 in our countries. I think Lima's in there.
Brazil,
Sao Paulo is probably in our top five.
yeah.
Rio. So yeah, we've never been to South America, but we do have data that tells us that there's a big following, a lot of listeners from this side of the world. So yeah, it's going to be super cool, very interesting.
Yeah, it's going to be very exciting to finally be able to travel and play Latin America and hopefully Mexico this year. Also a huge following there, and Mexico's one of the Mexico City.
Mexico City is number two.
Yeah.
As opposed to LA, that's just been number one probably always.
Yeah.
But yeah, Mexico as well. It's probably the biggest, if not America for us. So we're excited to, eventually make our way to Mexico and South America.
Yeah. I think Europe, Germany's probably one of our biggest ones, of course. Huge scene there. And, of course, we plan to tour it up over there. So hopefully, that helps grow our fan base there, and we reach more ears. And yeah, that's part of it, right? When you tour, that's the goal.
Definitely.
Well, guys, what's the best way our listeners can keep up with Twin Tribes?
You can visit us on social media. Instagram's probably are the one we really use more often. So you can follow us on Instagram, twin_tribes. We're on Facebook. You can subscribe to us on YouTube. Our music's on Spotify. Anywhere you can stream the music, you can find us there. If you do want to keep up directly, we do have a mailing list. You can go to our website, twin/tribes.com, and sign up for our mailing list, and all of our dates, all of our merch, everything Twin Tribes is on our website as well.
We wish you guys the best, not only in the new album, but in the upcoming tour. I encourage any of our listeners, if Twin Tribes is coming to your area, go see them live. You will not be disappointed.
Hey, thank you so much for having us. It's really been a pleasure.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Again, we'd like to thank Joel and Luis from Twin Tribes taking time out of their schedule to sit down and chat with us here on the New Wave Music Podcast. Once again, their album Pendulum comes out January 26th. You can find the pre-order link in our show description for their Bandcamp site. Please support the band if you like what you hear. If you have a band that you think we should spotlight here on the New Wave Music Podcast, shoot us an email at newwavemusicpodcast@yahoo.com. We'll be back with our next review episode. Not only will I be joined by the legendary T-Bone, he'll be back, but we'll be jumping into the brand new albums from Missing Persons and the Icicle Works, Ian McNabb. Both have brand new albums out. We'll give them a listen. Looking forward to having you guys join us on the next episode.